Mr. Angus, thanks for joining us today. In addition to an apology, what else are you asking the Catholic Church to do?
Well, one of the real problems we've seen in Canada on the issue of reconciliation is the failure of the Catholic Church to really do its part in terms of understanding the importance of the calls to action of the TRC and to repairing the damage that was done. So the fact that the Catholic bishops have decided not to invite Pope Francis to come to Canada to issue that formal apology is deeply disturbing. It's equally disturbing that the Catholic Church managed to walk away on the $25 million it was supposed to pay to the survivors. And we've seen a general reluctance on the various Catholic orders who are involved in the torture and abuse of children to turn over documents. Because of that, my colleague Roméo Saganash and I have written a letter to the Prime Minister in the Easter season, in the season of renewal within the Church, to say if the Catholic bishops are not willing to take up this cause, then Parliament needs to say to them, in the interest of national reconciliation, in reparation for the horrific crimes that were committed, the Catholic bishops need to step up and certainly make the formal call to the Pope for an apology.
Why do you think the Prime Minister can influence the Pope's decision on whether to come forward with this apology?
Well, I certainly have an enormous amount of faith in Pope Francis. He has been a fighter for justice. He's certainly broken the mold in terms of reaching out to the marginalized around the world, and he seems to care deeply about these issues. Our problem is that my understanding is he needs a formal request from the Canadian bishops, and they're not stepping up to the plate. It's certainly unprecedented that Parliament would call upon the Canadian Catholic Church to take action, but it's also unprecedented, I think, to watch in 2018 an institution as powerful as the Catholic Church that was so deeply involved in the torture and abuse and destruction of Indigenous children's identity in the residential schools not to be willing to step up this time. I'm flabbergasted that the Church is not taking these issues of reconciliation and the call for forgiveness as seriously as Canadians are taking it.
When are you hoping to bring the motion forward?
We will be introducing the motion in the House next week. We've talked to people who are very interested in a national petition to start putting the pressure on. We will find a moment to bring this forward for debate. I certainly think it's really unfortunate that Parliament has to raise this pressure on the Canadian bishops. I know that a fundamental factor of the Catholic faith is the issue of justice, the issue of supporting the marginalized, and the need to say forgiveness when you've done wrong. So I would like the Canadian Catholic bishops to do the right thing and recognize that it's time to make amends for the residential school horrors and to ask the Pope to be part of that process with us.
In 2006, the Catholic Church was let off the hook for raising funds for survivors. How can you put them back on the hook at this point?
Well, I think it's really unconscionable that the Catholic Church managed to find a legal loophole to avoid paying some of the compensation to the survivors of horrific abuse in schools like St. Anne's Residential School, where I still deal with almost on a daily basis with survivors of that institution of terror. What we have is the moral call of Parliament to say to the Catholic Church, you know, you got off on a legal technicality, you tried to avoid your responsibility, but to be a moral force in this country in 2018, to be a voice of genuine reconciliation, the Catholic Church of Canada needs to say they've done wrong and be willing to work with Indigenous people to repair these breaches. So I think what we have on our side is the moral force of history, and I'd like to know that the Catholic Church is standing there with us.
Do you believe an apology would be welcomed, especially by survivors of St. Anne's Residential School?
I think apologies are very powerful and healing moments. How do we move forward until the institution that caused that horrific suffering acknowledges it? You know, for some, apologies will never be enough, and it's not for me to say whether this apology is sufficient or not, but it is one of the calls of action of the Truth and Reconciliation. I believe it is something that Pope Francis should want to do. I believe he would want to be there to make these amends, and I just really find it unfortunate that we have to take this into the political realm to shake the Catholic bishops up and say, this is 2018. You really need to be accountable for what happened, and you need to say sorry.
Well, Mr. Angus, we'll see what happens with your motion there next week. We appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Well, thank you so much.